Hello, everybody. Welcome to Global View. Today we have a special guest, a comedian, a political commentator, somebody who has headlines the comedy clubs of all the United States, but also beyond the stage appeared on as a political commentator on network like Fox News. Welcome to Global View, Team Young.
Hey, I'm like your worst guest so far, by the way. You've had all these big stars on here, and then it's like you're already slumming it on like episode 5 or wherever we are now. Because I saw like Roger Stone, would you have Bannon on? You got all these big people, and then it's me, Trish Regan.
So you are
Tim, you're
team.
Tim, you are Tim Young.
I know.
And you are the man, and we are extremely excited to have you. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to keep it very cool, casual. And we just want to hear your thoughts on so many different things, from executive orders to the inauguration to the freezing conditions out there. If you made it out there, if you didn't, if you did, just tell us, how is life? What are you up to these days? And give our audience a little update of what Mr. Tim Young's all up to these days.
Well, look, I moved away from DC obviously to get out of the swamp, and I live in Grapevine, Texas now, where I love it. Like I think it was 70 degrees yesterday, and there are, I believe, don't quote me on this, like 75 miles of trails around here. So instead of me having to deal with the swamp and freezing and a-holes in the streets there, I wander around a beautiful lake. And we have a downtown here on Main Street with, like, I believe almost 20 wineries. So
Whoa.
basically, this is ideal. And GameStop headquarters is based here. So it's, as a nerd who drinks, this is the perfect home for me.
That's a perfect combination.
Yeah. And in the
Nerd
middle of it,
drinks.
I became CEO of a tech company. That's why I have the Veebs logo behind me, and I should be wearing my Veebs hat.
I
But
love that.
we this is a company, it's an app that you can put on your phone, the Veebs app, where you can go, people aren't going to change their shopping habits. So you go, you put it on your phone and you go scan UPC symbols at the store of like what you're buying, and it tells you if it's liberal or conservative, the product, and then gives you alternatives to buy.
You are not kidding.
Nope, it's amazing.
Wow.
That is incredible. I wonder, how do they even have that going on with the algorithm? How like, is it like a Bud Light situation versus like Budweiser? I don't even know where
Well,
Budweiser stands these
well,
days, but is it
so
kind of something like that?
it is, so what it does is it tells you about the parent company. So like when Ben and Jerry's acts out, right? So people, it's really interesting when people go, they don't want to buy Ben and Jerry's, so they go buy like Breyer's ice cream, and it's like, hey, by the way, it's the same company. It's all Unilever. So you don't want to give money to that entire corporate structure, because that corporate structure is what's funding all the liberal things. So we actually have a massive research team that goes into it. It's got a great algorithm on it, but like really the heart and soul of it is the research team that goes down the rabbit hole and researches all of the places that these corporations are giving their money to. It's unbelievable the amount of work that's gone into it. And these founders who did this, they brought me in to be CEO after they came up with this genius idea. And I mean, it really is incredible that you can just literally take your phone, hit a button, scan the UPC symbol, and it
Well,
tells you not only how, on a scale of 0 to 100, how liberal or conservative a product is. It tells you about the corporation that owns that product, and then it gives you alternatives that are conservative. So you're not giving your money to people who hate you.
no, it's important because now, we have all this industry of tampons for transgender women. Better we know which tampons we're going to buy, right? You
I
don't
mean,
want to get into that.
I don't buy tampons, so I don't know. But
Well,
but no, there's diaper companies that give money to Planned Parenthood, and it's like, how is this happening in America? How does this work? Like, I don't understand. This is where we are, though, and people shouldn't wait until there's a Bud Light situation where there's a Dylan Mulvaney and some sort of nonsense. We need to be proactive about our money, especially now with all this DEI stuff, and these
I
people are
agree.
really trying to like infect our society and change our culture and end capitalism. That's the craziest thing, is that a lot of these companies, they're happy with their money, and then they want to bring socialism and Marxism to America with all the organizations they're funding. It's unbelievable to me.
Tim, who was behind DEI and this attempt to usurp and replace American traditions, values, and culture? And why do you think it failed so quickly in America?
I don't think it's failed yet. That's the scary thing. I don't.
Oh, you don't?
No, I mean, I think Donald Trump is correcting it, but we've got a long, long way to go. And really, it's Marxism, and I don't know where it would have started from. I point the finger at the CCP a lot.
Hmm.
Look at the ads that are pushed to kids on TikTok, how there's all these trans things that are pushed to kids there. And on our side, but over in other countries, it doesn't work quite that way. So there are, I think, external forces that are trying to dismantle this country. There's a there's a certification that a lot of corporations are just opting into called B Corps. And you'll see
Mm.
like it's B Corp certified on a lot of products. And this is when it really woke me up is that one of my favorite whiskeys, Maker's Mark, sent out an email on like Earth Day and they were like, oh, we're a certified B Corp. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And you dig into it, and it's this Marxist organization that wants to reimagine capitalism. There's only one reimagining of capitalism, and it's social. Like, they're trying to get rid of it.
But this
Well,
is new. They weren't always like that, were they? So this is like a new
No,
phenomenon.
it really is, and I don't understand. Again, this doesn't make sense to us as capitalists, right? Why would a corporate board want more governance on top of them? Why would any capitalist company, any company at all that's already, working hard on their own, want to have extra oversight or be like one of the cool kids or something with like these liberals? It doesn't make sense to me.
Hmm.
it's I am European. I'm from Italy, and though Italy is not the most socialist of the countries in Europe, I can still see this trend. Basically, Biden's America, tried to import the worst from the socialist country of Europe and try to normalize it in the United States, while they're exporting this woke nonsense which never existed before. So I make you an example. The brainwashing has been so crazy that I recently got a message for an old school friend of mine, and she told me, Simona, I remember you as such a kind heart. How can you say online that exist only two genders? That are you kidding me? I mean, like, whoa, how many genders do you think exist? Let's go back to common sense, where actually we are considered bad people simply for stating what is normal. And I'm all in, accepting any type of personal choice. I don't care, and I think nobody should care. But from here to institutionalize these trends, it looks like imposing it on other people, and people accept it as normal, when actually it's not. So you're even like, oh, you're a fascist because you say there are two genders existing in the world. So how would you respond to these people?
Hmm.
Oh, well, there's only two options when you get a sex change. So, so that's it. I mean, that's really it. Like,
That's true. That's true.
but it's really sad though, and I think everyone has experienced this at this point. People cutting you off, your old friends cutting you off, and your old friends also feeling the need to weigh in on your opinions and make you seem
Yes.
like you're a bad person. They like elevate themselves. Again, this is another element of that cultural
Exactly.
Marxism that gets in here. It's the otherizing of your friends and your family
Hmm.
members, that you need to cut them off, and that somehow they're a bad person because they have a different view than you. And that's what we saw. It started with Obama, with starting with race and separating people by race. But then under Biden, like literally just saying half of the country is evil and half of the country is fascist. And they just throw this out. The fact that we've had it so good in America for so long, I think hurts us a lot, because we haven't had to deal with this stuff head on for so long, and we've gotten so comfortable with it kind of just invading into our society. And people don't know what real fascism is here, and they don't see it when it's in their
Exactly.
face. And so that really, like, the fact that you can just scream and say that somebody's a fascist, imagine like, not even 100 years ago, was it like 80 years ago now with Hitler? That was real fascism. We're seeing that there. We see it in other countries. But the fact that we point fingers here when we have it so good is insane to me. And that we can cut off friends like that is it's crazy. I mean, that's happened to me.
Yeah.
I, I'm sure it's happened. I know it happened to you. I'm sure, George. I can only imagine the demonizing the media. I mean, they had a whole multiple
Wow.
news cycles on you, sir. So like, I can only imagine like your childhood friends and just even maybe family, hopefully not family, but turning on you because of just this propaganda. It's insane.
It is.
Absolutely, Tim. And that's why it's so important just to push back against disinformation, propaganda, and this divisiveness that you said started with Obama. And I think it even started before. So, what the left will promulgate in the media is say that this is all BS from people like Tim Young, from Papadopoulos, from Mangiante, from others on the right. What we are attempting to do here with DEI and vilifying, let's say, Christian white people in America is by just trying to even out the playing field. We, as disenfranchised people, let's say XYZ person has been disenfranchised because of white supremacy since the foundation of America. And we just want to level out the playing field. We don't want to divide America, but we just want to amplify our voice. And we want to basically showcase our own talents and put ourselves on TV, put ourselves in movies, in commercials, whatever you want to call it, DEI. What's your reaction to that leftist argument? Because I think in America right now, we are of the same belief, the three of us on this show. but there's also a massive segment of the population which believes that narrative. So how do we unify America when we have these two disparate viewpoints on this very sensitive issue of culture and identity and what it even means to be an American?
I think we unify America by having conversations like this and just putting it out there. Because again, Elon says it all the time. You're the media now, and we really are. I mean, when
Yeah.
X and all these other platforms are overtaking your corporate media and your legacy media, this is how we win. Is just having this open conversation and then reaching out to people. But it's amazing. You mentioned the Christian thing, how they vilified Christians. Remember Christian nationalism? They tried to make that a thing to make it sound like it was fascist. And then those same people complained about Trump not putting his hand on the Bible when he took the oath of office. Right. So like I thought we were Christian nationalists. We were trying to get away from it. Shouldn't you be happy that he just didn't put his hand on the Bible when it, like, I mean, again, they are so hypocritical, but I think people are just waking up because they're on the because they're paying attention, because they're seeing this insane hypocrisy. When you saw, what was her name? It's Selena Gomez. That's from Only Murders, and the singer, when she was crying about the immigrants and people. She had such backlash from her fan base. That's a good sign. She's got a huge following. Maybe does she have the largest following on Instagram?
Yes, she does.
Like she had to take
Selena
the post
Gomez,
down.
yes.
Yeah, she had to take the post down because like people like were like, "What are you doing? Like you look like a clown," and she had no idea. And that kind of backlash and the pushback to the point that she took down her. By the way, when I cry, I like to put a phone in front of me too.
Me too. Like, oh look,
Don't you
I
guys
look credible.
That's you got to make sure you got the right lighting, and yeah, that's how you cry.
And then you
filters,
check
the
on
filters.
yourself, do I look good? Do I look right on this angle?
But that's a good sign, right? Because you're having normies are catching on to this, and they've caught on to it, and it's because of the internet. That's why the left was so harsh on Elon Musk, and they try to attack him, and they say, disinformation, blah, blah, blah. They scream into the ether at this point, hoping that people still listen to them because they know that people are getting informed. And, during their own, during COVID, when they were rallying against doing your own research. I don't know if you remember that news cycle where they said, do your own research. That's evil. That's bad. Who looks at that and says, "Oh, this is normal," that they don't want us doing our own research and looking into things? So go ahead.
No, I said, like, I want to pick up on a point you said, like, about talking about fascism. They don't know anything about it, and actually they're projecting what the fascism displayed in first place, demonizing a category of people for their thoughts and trying to censor people from and refrain people for talking their mind and anything. Like, I can't make research about this disease, I can't talk this way, that if you talk like that, so you are a bad person, you are a demon, you have to be isolated, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I never see anybody on the right doing that. They are doing that. So they are actually acting like fascists. And they don't know anything about the historical roots of Nazism, fascism. They just employ this word because it's a brainwashing puppets, So I just want to pick up on this point and agree with you. But what do you think is going to happen in right now when Trump is actually reversing everything that has been done? How long it will take to deprogram all these people that already went nuts?
20 years. It's going to take a long time. And that's the problem now. And we need to win the messaging war here because, lowering prices and combating inflation and fixing things, Trump is taking all the right moves to do that. It's going to take time, and people are very stupid and uninformed. And so the messaging, I mean, look, 5 days into Trump's presidency, the media jumped on egg prices went up. Yeah. Right. And at the point where there's nobody appointed, it's just him sitting in the Oval Office. He's got a skeleton crew as we're starting to staff up in that new administration. And the media is jumping on him, trying to blame him, falsely blaming him for egg prices going up within 5 days. The guy's still like, moving furniture around the White House. And they're going to try to win the messaging war. And luckily, again, like now that we're the media, now that there's more folks on X and all these other platforms, Rumble, where people can get like truly free information and inform themselves. That's the only way we can win, but it's going to be a battle. I mean, we have to defeat, the ADHD of the American public and the attention span of the American public and teach them that, for things to be fixed, it will take time. And that's really the only challenge that Trump is up against right now. I don't care about the Democrats showing up to USAID trying to get in, saying there's government overreach and that Elon is a shadow government and blah, 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 especially after they gave George Soros the Medal of Freedom, what was it, like less than a month ago now? So it's really just defeating people's attention spans at this point. We have to educate and inform the public and make them smarter so that they understand that good things take time.
True. Very true. So I'm sick right now. I think there is some sort of disease coming from
Oh,
everybody
your
who
segue.
touch
Oh, your
in.
segue here is so good.
Very sick. And I said, okay, what happened to me lately? Where did I go? And I went to DC. So, any
swamp.
opinion about the swamp contaminating good conservative people? Is that a virus in place or what's up?
The inauguration was cold as shit, and very poorly organized. The inauguration on television went off without a hitch, and that's what's very interesting when you talk about how terrible inauguration was in person. People online that weren't there, again, the people who aren't informed in this and they watched it on TV, they're like, it was amazing, and it was amazing. All of the events, the Capital One Arena, like all that stuff was awesome and amazing. Wish I could have got in. And I was VIP. I know you guys were VIP. I was on every list known to man. I got my green light to go to the Capitol viewing in the overflow room in the Capitol.
Oh wow, okay.
Whoa.
At 10:45 a.m.
Wow.
The day of inauguration. So it's just not happening. I'm literally live streaming at the Heritage Foundation, and I swore, Heritage doesn't like when you got to be a little bit more conservative. I try to be a little less sweary, and I go, what the fuck? Put my phone down, and the producer goes, what was it? I was like, I just got greenlit to go to the Capitol, the viewing as a VIP, and I'm like, and he's like, what? I mean, that was the tail of the tape all weekend. Was I was, I believe, greenlit for a suite at the event at the Capital One Arena, a nice catered suite. I know it sounds bragging, but I didn't get.
No.
So
Everybody we speak with has the same experience. Like on my side, I was just there planning to jump from a ball to another. I mean, VIP passes invitation, and here we are, 2 hours in the freezing cold, and then I turn around and I see all familiar faces because we're a small world here, right? And I see all these girls dressed up like Frozen, like it looks like a sort of Beetlejuice type of scenario, right? So everybody was dead, and I think only the strongest survived. I think there was a message into that. I'm joking, but when I came to the arena, I was so proud. I don't know, I made it, but I'm still paying for it. I can't recover. It's crazy.
By the way, I'm going to go back and record you saying Beetlejuice and just use it as a soundbite from now on. That was amazing. By the way, can I just tell you guys, I think before we get into how terrible the logistics of inauguration was, because that was the problem.
Horrible.
Yeah, people are already. Are you two like the most beautiful people in conservative politics? Is that like a thing? Have you noticed that? Like you're both. Papadopoulos is never. He's never dressed like. You don't slum it, do you? Does he ever wear like a hoodie like me? No.
Just in bed.
He wakes up and puts on a suit. Like he sleeps in that suit.
No, he sleeps in silks. It's really pretty much.
Tim, this is the effect of having an Italian wife.
Yeah.
She says, "I dress you." She dresses me in the morning. She's like, "I will not let you leave the house unless you dress."
I'm much more casual than him.
I have a hot fiance, but she doesn't. She lets me go, and she just lets me let go. Like it doesn't matter because she's been in tech for a long time and social media for a long time, so she's used to people who dress like John Fetterman, and I don't disappoint. I don't disappoint.
I like it.
That's awesome.
I like it anyway.
But look, no, this inauguration, and I'm not bragging about VIP. I'm just saying, for people who went, and I was kind of upset. So I had Commander in Chief ball tickets. And that's the military ball. I don't know why I was given military ball tickets, but I'll take it. We didn't end up going in because the line was so long and the doors opened late and it was 2 degrees outside. And my fiance Alex was in pain. She literally, and the women next to her were getting frostbite on their toes for being out for so long. And we also we thought we were smart. Well, I thought I was a smart guy because I booked the Hyatt Convention Center, right? So it's just 2 blocks north of the convention center. I don't know why I'm doing this. But the way the security was around it, it was a 10 to 15 block radius. And it took us to get to where you were supposed to get into the one opening in the gate, because you can't tell where they're going to have the gate opening ahead of time. It was a 35-minute walk around the fence to get in.
Did you feel that you were going in circles?
Yes.
When crossing, people say, "Don't worry, you're not there yet. You're gonna make another round."
It was like that movie Midnight Express. Remember that movie Midnight Express with the Turkish prison where they had to walk 7 times in a circle just to pass the time? I felt that's what we were doing in minus 10 degrees, and I almost freaked. So
we had our own inaugural ball, actually. So the Westin, which was kind of centrally located, kind of going straight up right off, I think it was K and 9 right there. when we had been out in it for about an hour or 10 minutes, and Al literally, like, her ear canal started to hurt, and I'm like, that's not good. Like, when you get to the point where like in your inner ear starts to hurt, we got to throw in the towel. And so we went and had our own little inaugural ball at the Westin Hotel, where basically all of the overflow was with people who were warming up. And I just got a table. I walked in and got a table, and we ended up having like pizza and bottles of wine, because even drink service there was so backed up, because at a non-ball, because there were so many people in there. So we just ordered a couple bottles of wine and some pizza. And
That's actually the best. I love that.
That's where we ended up.
Well, we actually, at some point, you remember, you were freezing. I was freezing, and I said, I can't feel my feet anymore. So we have to do something. And we ran into an hotel, and I said, I need some wine and some little food, because otherwise I die. While we were there, a guy comes in, and I said, don't give up. You're almost done. It's one.
It's just 10 more feet, but that's going to take you 2 hours to get to.
Yeah, I wish I would have gotten in, but we watched it on TV, and then we just stayed and ate pizza and drank wine. And then more people showed up, and I won't name them, but some campaign people showed up to hang out with us there, because everyone had the same problem. The only thing that I was just really kind of offended by, and it wasn't for me, but like the members of the military who had to wait in the cold, and I think they had their own separate entrance. Like, for me, you put me in the normal entrance, I don't care, because I'm nothing special. But I think the members of the military who have kind of already been vetted, and their families should have had a little fast track and shouldn't have been made to wait. And it's not Donald Trump. It wasn't the campaign. It was whoever was doing the logistics on this. And that's, under Amy Klobuchar, the Democrat from the Senate, who was running it. I almost feel like it was like sort of intentionally done to screw with Republicans for winning.
I was coming up with a sign saying MAGA life matters. It was killing me.
Yeah. Look,
I was dying.
I never dress up, and I was like murdered out. So I had all black with the black thing, and then the black on black MAGA hat.
Did you take pictures?
Pictures? They're somewhere, but
let me see that.
Here's the thing. I was on a really good diet for a while, up until about 2 months, maybe a month before the election day, and I started seeing spots because I was so stressed out. Especially when they put me in. I had a 1 second cameo in the Unity ad, that amazing ad that I think Nicole Shanahan's team put together. And I just thought to myself, if Kamala wins, I'm going to a gulag. Like, I'm first in now. Like, they just put my name on the list. And like, so it was like such an honor. I'm like, oh my God, if Kamala wins this, I'm going to be audited from here till, the end of eternity, and I'll be in a gulag. And so like, I actually started to see spots, and I didn't show stress on the outside, and I was confident Trump was going to win the entire time. But like, there was just that little bit that my blood pressure was through the roof up until inauguration.
That was crazy. I mean, what we've been through, and until the very end. And I love your the fact that you space from entertainment to politics, right? We live in LA, so this is the land of. Do you ever come here? Do you still do a lot of shows, or how do you merge the politics and entertainment? Because right now, are you welcome back in the entertainment land now that Trump won, and we can still talk freely, or you're still this censorship?
Well, I stopped doing comedy clubs a long time ago, because I would do like news of the day, and it's what I do. I mean, it's what I've kind of made my name for, is like commenting on the news and making fun of it. But I went, and there was a little person who was the headliner the one night that I was the feature for, and my media stuff was not hitting with a crowd, and so I just went right back to dick jokes, and I was like, So I stuck with. I've stuck with colleges and to be honest with you, as a stand-up comic, so if you stick with colleges and conferences and speaking things, and also people call me to advise them a lot, which is pretty wild to me. I make way more money doing one hit than working 6 shows in a weekend or whatever it is, and slumming it and slugging around with it. I mean, I love performing. There's nothing like it, but people have come to me, corporations have come to me, now conservative organizations are coming to me for advice to seem cooler. And it's a hell of a career I've kind of chiseled out for myself. There's a couple of announcements that'll be coming up, I think, in the next 2 months here, and it's just really, really fun for me. And we all, it's people were like, "You're a failed comedian." I'm like, "No, I'm not." In fact, like it's crazy when you get called by like a congressman, and they're like, "Hey, how can I, spin this and say this and be funnier?" And it's such an honor to do that. And now we're kind of in the land where a lot of people are asking me to run for office. I'll never be a member of Congress.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? You should actually.
A terrible job. Terrible job. I would do mayor maybe of a town. But little hint. But like I would never be a member of Congress. So if you're an honest member of Congress, and you guys know this, they make what, 174 a year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're an honest member of Congress from Texas and you're not insider trading and you're not, laundering money through a book deal, which is kind of what they do, you lose money at that job. You absolutely lose money doing that. I mean, between having your family travel that's not covered for, and then you have to get an apartment in DC that's 3,000 a month on top of having your home expenses and things like that, you're at best breaking even. So that's why it's very limiting. Like if I still lived in Maryland, and I would never get elected as a Republican in Maryland, you could drive to work, and so you're saving a lot of money. Joe Biden taking Amtrak or whatever he did, which he actually did do in the Senate. It's not terrible because he's still kind of local. But flying in from somewhere out here, it's a lot. And I'm not saying that there are dirty politicians, but a lot of folks come in with a lot of money to start with, and
Mm.
I would still like to make my piles of cash instead of giving it up to serve people quite yet. And as a member of Congress, I think it's a
Yeah.
thankless job too. You go in there, you have to argue with a bunch of idiots. You guys, you've probably met most members of Congress, and I think you'd agree that 80% or more are dumb as rocks. And then you have the ones that are actual leaders that stand up and do great stuff. And
They're usually targeted, Tim. It's usually
yes,
the
yeah,
leaders, the truth seekers, and the ones making an impact who are then audited, harassed, their doors knocked down at 6 in the morning, and gone through the ringer. So usually, when you see that happen, they're doing something right. And the 80, the 85% that you just mentioned that just go unscathed, just flow through Washington D.C., go through the cycle. You're probably right, and that's something that now that Trump is all about power back to the people and making DC more accessible to the working man and woman, and allowing more of a representative government. Hopefully even that culture changes, because we started this conversation off about culture writ large in America, on the left, the right, the center, how corporations are impacting that, how Americans view one another. But how do we really change the culture of what you just described in Washington D.C., where I guess it's like this insidious, almost corrupt culture that really doesn't serve the American people, and people are just there to line their own pocketbook. So how do we fix DC's culture?
that's the hardest question you could ask.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times my answer to that is you can't.
Mm.
And it's like, I know that's not the sexy answer. There's a lot of things, you look at a lot of policy that there really isn't a solution to, right? So, um, we can get close to fixing it by adding regulations and term limits on people, but they're never going to vote for term limits for themselves. They're never going to vote for
Mm.
a pay decrease for themselves. One of the members of Congress who I think is my favorite recently here is Kay Granger, who they found in a dementia home. She had been missing for 6 months, hadn't voted on anything, and she's in a Fort Worth a home in Fort Worth. They found her. The Dallas Express here in town. Actually, they were looking to see how she was going to vote on the omnibus before Biden left office, and they couldn't. There was nobody in her office. They started nosing around, and she's in a home, and like
How was she voting then? How did she
she
vote?
wasn't.
Like,
She
was she
wasn't.
she just wasn't
It's
voting?
all
hmm
corrupted.
So
Yeah.
I mean, but still collecting a paycheck, still had a staff. And the problem is when you have these people, it's not just the members of Congress, right? So like when you have like Dianne Feinstein, who like had no idea where she was and couldn't say aye or nay to anything, right? And they just
Mm.
pull her and they're like, say aye, and she's like rambling about whatever because she didn't know where she was at
Hmm.
what was she, like 90? Uh,
Hmm.
it's her staff. It's her family. It's these people because you look at a staff of 25, 30 people, they don't want to lose their jobs. They got sweet paying jobs. Some of them now in Congress make more money than the member themselves. And so they'll weekend at Bernie's, whoever, to keep their power and their influence and their paychecks coming in and their sweet government health care. So, changing the culture. I mean,
Mm.
love to say that the common man should be running for office, but the structure is so set up now that you keep the people in power, and they never will give up anything that they have, even the good ones. Even the good ones, they'll say like we're pro term limit, but they know damn well that they're not trying to convince anybody to vote along with it, and that no one will vote with it.
Hmm.
So we're in a cycle. I think the way to change the culture really in DC is to start at home, and you start taking over the little positions, and you start moving up. School boards, parents woke up and took over school boards. You run for things like freaking dog catcher. All these jobs matter. All these judicial jobs and the little county jobs and city councils and your small towns that are like thankless jobs. The mayor here of Grapevine, not that I've researched this, only makes $21,000. It's a thankless full-time job, basically. I mean, it's part-time technically, but like you're running so much for a town. Here's a town with a huge amount of commerce and tourism, and we've got conventions. We've got like the Gaylord Convention Center down the street and everything you can think of. It is a nonstop job that pays $21,000. So like even that, like it's something you have to kind of, if you're in a position to take a small position like that, and it's not a small position, it's a big position for the community, you should do it. But it's just such a strange, we've created an environment, and I mean, this just happens. We've seen it throughout history where the people in power have a dynamic where they will stay in power.
Mm-hmm.
And we have seen the same with Biden.
Oh God.
Right, it should have been somewhere taken care of, but now apparently I don't know if it's a real news or fake news, but I saw it on Fox where you work. They said that he signed up with a Hollywood agency, for talent agency. Is that real? I mean, which kind of talent does he have?
What's the talent?
What's the talent of Joe Biden?
Pooping his pants, taking naps, and getting lost on stage. Like you could watch probably a 2-hour show of Joe Biden just wandering around a stage trying to find his way off, right? He talks for 3 minutes and then he just wanders the remainder of the time. But no, what they'll ghostwrite a book for him. That's what that's all about. So
but is this a new book deal? Is this a new like
probably
book deal, where they get their millions for their favors? I don't know. I mean, and then Trump comes out and says he has enough problems of his own. So
yeah. No, I mean, look, this guy, he's a walking carcass, a corpse. He's been around for a while doing this now. We all know it. Everyone covered for it on the left. And really, when you take a look at this, like they're just cashing in a little bit more. I'd love to see, by the way, the other day, apparently the Biden administration gave the Virgin Islands $20 billion and their gross domestic product is like 4 billion or 4.5 billion. So, damn well, that's where a lot of rich people hide their money. So who knows? There's a reason he pardoned members of his family we've never even heard of, right?
Exactly. So, well, even his brother. I mean, I did some research in the past, and he's completely involved this money laundering in Ukraine. Everybody's just like closing their eyes so to all this probably the most corrupt president ever. Like it's his legacy is just brutal. And I
was gonna say, but like I mean, he's the most corrupt because he knew about his corruption, right? Because we saw it; it was so public. But like, if we go back to the 80s, I mean, not looking at like HW or anything like that. I know Ronald Reagan was a good guy, but like maybe like Jimmy Carter, we don't know all the dirty deals these guys did back in the day because we didn't have the internet. We didn't have citizen journalism. And when you realize how leftist all the media was and that they covered for it, God knows what people got away with.
And Tim, even look at this whole like scandal with USAID, right? It's less than 1% of the federal budget. And look at how much corruption was just intertwined in less than 1% of the federal budget of our taxpayer dollars going to all these corrupt agencies, corrupt programs around the world. Can you imagine not only what kind of waste is in some of these other programs, but what kind of corruption and how this money is just circulating and where it's going and to who it's going? I mean, I think this is going to be the scandal of the Trump administration. It has nothing to do with President Trump or the Republican Party, but of Democrat elites. And what do you expect us to find moving forward now that Trump is auditing? I guess he wants to audit things like the Fed. He hasn't pledged that yet, but auditing the federal government. And how high up do you think this corruption is really going to go? What do you think about all this?
I mean, if it started, how high up it's going to go? We know Biden was involved with it and his entire family. So that's, I mean, I don't think you get much higher than that, but I think everyone's on the take. So in 2008-ish, one of my first jobs in Washington, D.C., I sold the people tracking software from a company called LexisNexis to the federal government. So it would like track like licensing and things. So the federal government agencies don't talk to each other and they don't talk to the state agencies. So there's all this data out there. Maybe they've cleaned it up since then, but there's all this data out there that's public, but not in one place for these agencies to use. And when I sold for LexisNexis, I could probably still sell this product. We sold people tracking software, meaning we took all of that data into one database and then put it under like, so each name would have their own individual, almost like its own separate, like social security number, but in the LexisNexis thing that showed all of their licenses, all of the crimes they've committed, whatever. There were people so there were criminals, fugitives on the federal level that were in state prisons. And the federal government didn't know they were in state prisons. And so we would link it together. They'd find out where these people were. But in particular, one of the things that happened, it was a lot of Medicare and Medicaid fraud. And
Mm.
the LexisNexis at the time that I was there, again, this is almost 20 years ago, was given access to 3 states, Medicare and Medicaid payouts from just one, just to do a little kind of research to show with the federal government where the holes were. And in particular, you talk about all this money going around for like all these trans things and stuff. There's so much Medicare, Medicaid fraud. There was one place, it was a P.O. box, I believe, in Florida that and somebody could check me on this, but it was $5 million was sent to this one place that they said that they were giving out the AIDS medicine at the time, and there was no licensed physician there, and it was just a PO box. So they
Wow.
literally just
That's
filed the
crazy.
paperwork, nobody double checked it, and the government just threw $5 million at one random like PO box. So like, and that was just tip of the iceberg. We were in the billions then in just Medicare and Medicaid fraud. When you start digging into that and all the unlicensed people and illegal deals that people were getting, you add in COVID and the extra billions that came out during that, like this stuff, like the paying for, what is it, a trans opera and then like trans comic book and Sesame Street, 20 million for Sesame Street in Iraq. Like that's not even the tip of the iceberg. Like we haven't begun to see the amount of fraud. And the thing is, the people who are involved know that they can get away with this stuff. The
Yes.
federal government was at the time paying folks, paying organizations 10% of whatever they could recover of this fraud. Like if they could get the money back, they get 10% of it. Like kind of like private agencies if they could find it. So I don't even know. Like, I mean, you want to talk about why we're so much in debt and like how much fraud and abuse? I'm thinking we're going to see individual people working at Medicare and Medicaid who are on the take. It's just the extent of the fraud from our federal government and the illegal spending and the just handing out of money. We'll never get to the bottom of it. And the fact that Democrats are freaking out about it, they know that the jig is up and they know that their people were on the take the entire time.
Well, I guess, Tim, that's why Biden wanted to boost the IRS's budget by like I think 5 or 10 billion or whatever that crazy number it was, because he had to shake down the middle class and to surveil our $600 Venmo payments or whatever. God knows what they were trying to track. And it was all going to this kind of nonsense in this kind of way. So I think that's really what's fascinating with Trump and this whole policy of tariffs and his idea of potentially abolishing the federal income tax. Do you think that's realistic
I think
based on all of what we're talking about right here?
I think it is. I really like the fair tax idea. I like the tariff idea and I like the fair tax idea. I like being taxed a higher amount on just things that you buy rather than your
Mm-hmm.
actual income. I think that's a great idea. But again, you'd have to get everybody in on it, and there's
Mhm.
just it just isn't going to happen. There are so many amazing utopian like conservative policies that I would love to see enacted. Just ain't going to happen.
Mm.
And that's really the sad part of the whole thing. Like how do you stop? I always like the issue of like mass shooters, right? Awful. Every one of them is awful. Democrats' solution is to take more guns off of the streets and get everybody's guns away from them. That's not going to stop a crazy person. And also like arming teachers and arming more people in the public, that might stop them, but the crazy person's still gonna
Yes.
shoot a couple of people before you get there. I mean, there isn't really a solution. There aren't policy solutions for a lot of our major problems, and elected officials are afraid to admit that because again, you have so much special interest money coming in that says you need to be black or white with it and not realize there's a gray area in the middle. And I don't think that, it's tough to say like there aren't solutions for our problems, but really, again, like the structure of how things are, it sounds so strange, but you got to start infecting from the bottom if you want to change the way our government runs. And that's why I said, like, it's not sexy, but if you run for dog catcher and then you run for your city council in your town of like 5,000 people or 4,000 people, you're making more of a difference. And that's how things get changed. But it's really like, again, I feel like I'm the bearer of bad news. And you'll talk to, on your show, you'll get a bunch of, talking head folks and very smart people. But I don't think a lot of times people will be like, hey, there's no solution. And we're just afraid to say that. It's going to take years to get things fixed because people want to see that like instant return on things. And that's just like, as an adult, when you got to fix a major problem in your life, it doesn't just happen overnight.
And you said something that really caught my attention when you said all these people commit all these frauds because they get away with it. And what does it tell us about the justice system that has been persecuting and not prosecuting, literally persecuting people like Steve Bannon, who served 4 months in a
Yeah.
prison for defying a subpoena, not taking, and he had executive privilege not to do that, for not taking part to a corrupt investigation like the one on January 6th. And then we have people who commit tremendous frauds, and they're still there, free to act. How people can trust the justice system like that?
You can't. You can't. I mean, and that's really what it is. Like if you're on the bad side of people, if you dress the wrong way one day, people will judge you a certain direction. But like, yeah, we literally, and there are polls out there that say that people absolutely don't trust the media, don't trust the justice system, don't trust anything in this country anymore. And they that's the correct answer. We shouldn't trust it. I believe in Pam Bondi. I think Trump's going to clean up a lot of things. But again, the Department of Justice is so massive and encompasses so many people that you will have bad actors there beyond these 4 years. Hopefully we'll have, JD Vance in another 4 years and maybe for 8 there. And like there will still be bad actors then. Like you literally have to restart the government. You have to have a hard reset to fix it. And we can't have that hard reset just because of how things are established. So that corruption is going to continue forever. At least, in the middle of everything, I think a lot of people woke up when you have Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro and all of these persecuted people, the January 6 people, that Democrats who interrupt congressional hearings or trespass on the Capitol, they get a $25 fine and they're released within a minute, right? They show up, they maybe take fingerprints, whatever, they get slapped with a tiny fine, they go away. I think people see the hypocrisy and they've woken up to it. And, as much as I hated that, Navarro and Bannon were hit like that. And, Roger Stone's house being raided, you look at things like that. Awful. Yeah.
They
like
arrest us too.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that because you guys are so sexy. I forget that you were. It's just we forget. I mean, it wakes people up that they pay attention to what's happening a little bit at a time. But there are so many of these bad actors that are still out there. And then once you're finished with the federal level, you got the local level.
Yeah,
you've got districts like you got New York, Boston, St. Louis. I bring up all the time. Seattle, Portland, LA. They kind of woke up a little bit. San Francisco seems like they're waking up by replacing members of their school board. They just, what was it? They recalled, and then the Oakland mayor. I think Baltimore will never be fixed. I think that's just gone, and that's where I grew up. Went to law school. There's just, it's almost like too big to fix, and we just have to take the small victories that we have. But we're talking, if you really were able to clean up the DOJ and our justice system, we're talking multiple generations. We're talking like a century to fix it. This is not, I mean, I wish that there were overnight solutions, and we can fire lots of people. And I like getting rid of the IGs. I mean, Trump's on fire, and I'm glad that he's on fire this time, and he's taking no prisoners, and he's taking like brash, harsh actions and just knocking it out. But that's just the beginning, and then implementing it is a whole nother level.
No, Tim, you're absolutely right. And it's actually refreshing to hear somebody just say it the way it is, because so many people will come out and say that they have the magic wand to make things all better and things are going to get better within 2 weeks or 2 months of the Trump administration. But we're really facing like systemic challenges in America, from culture to the DOJ to the rule of law to policy to how DC is run to what even a representative government means. This is a generational issue, but I certainly think that President Trump started fixing things during his first term. Obviously, we saw how the deep states or the administrative state went after him using things like silent coups, traitors within his own administration, trying to jail him, kill him, get him out of office, destroy his movement. So I think right now he's moving so quickly because he understands this is his last term and that he has to set the foundation. So my last question to you, Tim, is in President Trump's last term that he is right now, what foundation can he leave? Meaning, in 4 years, when we look back on President Trump's second term, what will his legacy be? And how can he start building that legacy to make America truly a great nation once again?
Well, so he's doing it now. It's the saying "fuck it" and signing executive order after executive order. It's cleaning out these agencies. It's firing people. The move to get rid of the bureaucrats by saying come back to the office or you're fired, and then giving them a chance to quit. Like that's going to clean up a lot. It's much more than any other administration in history. I think he's this guy has learned his lesson from last time. I mean, you take a look at his vice president in the vice presidential office last time, Mike Pence.
Yeah.
Like Trump, he was an establishment hack. You've got Mike Pence's comms director. I don't think enough people say this. Mike Pence's comms director is now on The View as a panelist. Alyssa Farah. She worked. I mean, you take a look at all these people. You wonder where the leaks came. That whole office. I mean, that was just. He's lucky that Pence wasn't in the Oval Office more often, I think, because I think that guy was probably the major problem on top of everybody else trying to get famous the first time around. You had characters like Omarosa and all these other people. Who knows?
Yes, remember.
There were so many potential leaks. It was ridiculous. But I think by the time of this term ends, and I think get a JD Vance, because JD Vance, by the way, you want to talk about picking the right guy from the farm team. I don't think there is anybody else, and this guy gets better every time I see him. And he's got the Hillbilly Elegy. I'm now re-listening to the audiobook of Hillbilly Elegy. The guy understands middle America. The guy gets it. I mean, he comes from a town that was devastated by, was it steel leaving the town and then coal around that same area. I came from Baltimore where there's steel mill. We were the major city other than New York on the East Coast for like 100 years or more. And then the steel plant left and all the money left the town. It turned into a shithole. I mean, you've got the right guy who understands America right there. But and I think he's charismatic and he knows how to handle the media. There is Donald Trump in these 4 years. Number one, media is changing to the point that legacy media, you see all these old timers like Andrea Mitchell and Chuck Todd just leaving. Jim Acosta, they're gone.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Because there's such a turnover because the money isn't there anymore because Trump really beat him. And Elon Musk is such a critical piece of that by empowering citizens. Elon Musk giving people the platform like X and to be free with what they say. But I think by the time of this term ends, and when we look back on this, I think the foundation will be down. Again, we have to teach people that good things take time.
Yeah.
But the foundation will be set that, the joke is that he'll be added to Mount Rushmore. I really do believe that. I thought that in 2015, I did an interview, and I need to pull it up so that Trump hears it one day and he goes, "Oh my God, Tim Young knew it." I said he was going to be a two-term president, go down as one of the greatest presidents of all time. And that is somebody, I've been in politics since 2001, right out of college. And I've never seen anybody like him. We needed a normal person to come in, and Donald Trump's not normal, right? He's a billionaire. He's very successful. He knows how to run business.
Yeah.
But he's the right guy to come in. That's the outside guy to just fix stuff and have a checklist of priorities and just do it instead of just give lip service.
Yes.
And I just think years from now, beyond any of our lives, we will look back at this moment in history. And I truly believe that what Trump is saying about this becoming the golden age of America, I think it's starting. And it's going to be with him he needs to be the biggest dick he can be in the White House. I want to hear liberals screaming every day because of executive orders, because of what his people are doing to clean out the federal government. And if that's happening, the more I hear them scream, the more I know he's doing the right thing.
And on this note, I would like to close this wonderful conversation. Welcome everybody to the Golden Age of America.